Welcome back, listener. Today we have a special guest and a special episode that hopefully, if you're a devoted listener, you've been anxiously awaiting.
So if you have followed us on General Snobbery, you would know that we are huge fans of Independence Day Resurgence. More specifically, we are very, very huge fans of a specific character, the character of Dikembe Umbutu, whom we have dedicated multiple episodes to. And we are beyond thrilled to report that on this particular episode, we have with us the actor who portrays Dikembe Umbutu, Mr. DeObia. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to say your last name.
That's okay. It's DeObia Oparei.
Oparei.
DeObia Oparei. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us from across the sea, in fact. And we very much look forward to learning a little bit more about you and a little bit more about, by far, the definitive character of our podcast, Dikembe Umbutu.
So I guess we would like to begin just by talking a little bit about the character of Dikembe Umbutu. It's tough to say exactly what it was, but instantly when you appeared on the screen in that movie, we both loved you and you became our favorite character. And
thank you.
So we wanted to first thank you. Thank you for being that character.
It was truly a delight to see you sneak up from behind Jeff Goldblum. And, I guess we would love to hear a little bit about how you prepared for this character. Is there anything special you did? Maybe first we could start with, in terms of the physical. Dikembe Umbutu is a powerful man, and you yourself are a large and powerful man. Is there any kind of special training that you underwent to sort of create this presence about Dikembe?
Well, I think, because, firstly, I often do play, I'm 6'6" and I'm about 260 pounds. So I often do play, and muscular. So I often do play kind of warrior, general type roles. But I think, and I think a lot of big men will attest to this, that, the more interesting, often big men are seen as, oh my God, wow, look at them. They're really big. Look at their size. They're huge. But often for me, what I've always found interesting, because I've always been a big guy, is the vulnerability of large men, and the intensity of somebody who's big, for me, doesn't come from their strength. Their strength is amplified when they're able to play vulnerability. And so I really enjoyed Dikembe because, he had an inner life, and I think his presence and intensity comes from the fact that, he's on a mission and he's troubled. He's out to avenge his brother. He has a backstory, and there's all of that emotion going on inside. Having the brawn is great. Don't get me wrong. I love being big. I love flexing my muscles. I love looking at myself on screen. And,
good, we do too.
I'm taller than Jeff Goldblum.
I'm sure you scared him a little bit.
Yeah, all of that is joyful, Yeah. But the really good thing about it for me is, and even when I look at other large men on screen, or look at generals or the big guy type, is that it really works for me when there's a vulnerable core, or there's an intensity that is juxtaposed with something emotional and not just physical.
That is awesome to hear, and it's so wonderful because we see that as we watch the movie Independence Day Resurgence. What you just described totally comes through, how you have this man who's a powerful man, he's a warlord, he's a leader of people, and yet at the same time he has this very keen wisdom that he has clearly built over the course of years through spiritual practice and other means, as well as he has this, it seems like, a very just sense about him of what he wants wants the good of his people, and he wants to care for people. And so I love that, like, hearing what you brought to the character is exactly what we saw on screen, and added to the complexity of the character himself, that he's not just this, like you said, brawn that's good, but he's a deeper person as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's always important when you're playing stock characters, like the African warlord is a stock character, but African warlords get a bad rap because, they do want to kill.
It's true.
They do want to kill, and a part of their modus operandi is to sometimes rape and pillage. But they also want to look after the old woman of the village. They also want to make sure the children of the village are looked after. They also want to make sure, that people are protected. So, with that menace comes also a sense of responsibility to look after your people and shepherd them through trying times. And I think Dikembe, having experienced the ground war of the aliens, pre-IDR2, is coming out of that with a great sense of responsibility. And that is his gravitas. He's a king, he's a leader, and he has to look after his people by any means necessary. At the same time, he is a heartfelt man. He studied fine arts at Oxford. Yeah. So he has that kind of softness to him, which I think really adds to that kind of his machete kind of wielding aggression,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a very, very patient man, and he only busted out the machetes when it was absolutely necessary. And,
exactly.
And we were very glad it was necessary, because that scene is awesome.
Thank you. I loved it. I loved shooting it, And it was great working with Roland. Roland gave me a lot of free rein because he trusted me and fed me with a lot of backstory.
Okay.
And I think did a really pivotal thing in the movie for me, was that he did away. Originally, Dikembe had an African accent, and I have nothing against African accents. I love accents, and I love playing with accents. But the fact that Dikembe didn't have an African accent, in terms of movie language, it humanized him, and it made him more accessible. And I love that. And so, Roland did away with that in the first audition, which was great. And it just allowed Dikembe to have a more universal voice. And, I really think it added to it.
I wonder if I could ask, you mentioned kind of the depth of his inner life. And that came across so well. I think that's part of why I love the character so much. He talks about these visions that he's struggling with, and obviously a lot of regret from the past, and struggles with his father. And he struck me as a guy who would like sit in a dark room and like meditate for hours, like light a candle or something and just have these kind of powerful visions. I wonder, I think that can only come across if the actor himself has a great depth of inner life as well. So I wonder do you have any kind of spiritual or meditative practice that you use to kind of bring some humanity and depth to characters like Dikembe?
I definitely bring, as I think actors do, you bring one's life and experiences to a role, to a character, and that all comes to bear on the world and the life of that person. But personally, I don't follow one specific practice. I wouldn't call myself religious. I don't believe in dogma. But I do kind of eat from or drink from the well of many forms of spirituality and religion. I think there are great things that are written in the Quran. I think there are wonderful things written in the Bible. There are amazing things in the Torah, in something called the Upanishads, and Indian. Yeah, exactly. The Bhagavad Gita. And, so it's great to read all of that and to get meat from all of that. And I think just as an actor, one is absolutely curious. I'm very curious. And so I've always been very curious. And I think playing warriors, I played, I've done a lot of theater, and I remember playing a warrior called Mudra, the mudra in yoga is a shadow warrior. And I don't know if you've ever done yoga, but he kind of comes from that warrior pose. And I played this character in a play at the National Theatre here in the UK, and I had to do a lot of yoga and a lot of meditation, and it really kind of got me into that whole world. And in many ways, being an actor, there's a kind of meditative quality to it. But yeah, most definitely. I think stillness is something that's very dynamic on screen. And I think stillness comes when one is connected to who you are on the inside. You know, they say the inner life is a lot more bigger and stronger than the outer life. The outer life is just a manifestation of who you are on the inside. And I think I believe that.
That would make you a very powerful man inside.
Yeah.
Certainly a very big one.
Yeah, and I think everything you just said also comes across on screen. I can think of several specific moments from the film when Floyd says something maybe juvenile or maybe a little naive, and Dikembe, in a non-judgmental way, sort of gives him just a look that I felt like did so much for the character of Floyd, who we actually see flourish as a human because of Dikembe Umbutu's guidance. But, you know, I think in opposition to the silence and in opposition to the sort of meditative and compassionate side of Dikembe Umbutu, we're also pleased to see him every once in a while in a restrained way and in an appropriate way, totally lose it, and in a good way. And we referenced earlier this scene when the alien steals the gun and he's shooting, and Dikembe unsheathes his machetes, and we see the the ground warrior from the War of '96 really take hold, and you slide and you finally get the alien from behind, just like you basically promised you would. I wonder if we loved that scene. That was our favorite scene in the movie.
Me too. I love that scene.
It was so great.
Awesome. I kind of think, that the relationship Dikembe has with Floyd is very much the relationship that, without wanting to read too much into it, but it's very much the relationship that the old world has with the new world. And the old world symbolizing, if you like, old cultures, ancient cultures, once called primitive, but we're now understanding that is a very kind of pejorative term. But if you like, Dikembe is an old African warrior.
Yeah.
And I think that Floyd represents the West and the kind of churlish nature of the West. And I think, that for me was very much what I saw going into it, was that one, is looking at this kind of child who has these expensive toys at their disposal, but completely uncentered and untutored. And I think Dikembe had a stillness and a gravitas and a wisdom about him that didn't need to be overspoken and could just come out in a look. And then it was great then when you had that lovely moment with the alien where, I was able to, as Dikembe, just let loose and, go all African style Rambo on the alien. That was great.
Oh, it really was.
You summoned some great screams in that scene.
Yeah. Another great moment with the machetes.
It was fun to shoot.
Oh,
Cool.
A little bit about that, maybe. How physically did that shoot go down? Were you attached to wires the first time we saw it?
Yeah, I was attached to wires. Originally, it was a little bit of a longer fight. Okay. Obviously, in the cut, it got cut. But the juicy stuff was all kept in. But that literally was all me. I had a really, really good stunt guy.
Oh, cool.
But it was something, I love doing my own stunts to a point, because I used to dance years ago. So there's a real strong connection between dancing and fight choreography. And so I love it, So yeah, it was just fun. I was connected to wires. The alien was huge. The model was really big, and it was just a really fun night of shooting.
Man, I can imagine it would have been great to be a fly on the wall of that studio at the time.
Now we did a little, as much research into you as we could before this interview, and we stumbled upon.
No, I wasn't a stripper.
Yeah. And we knew that.
No, I was never a stripper.
Is that a lie?
I'm not anti-strippers, but I wasn't a stripper.
Well, we are anti-strippers. No, we're kidding.
Oh, really?
No,
Don't be. Everyone's got to earn a living.
We're totally
not
kidding.
At all.
Oh, no, but in fact, in another interview, I believe I did see you say that it's been misconstrued. You were not a stripper, right? But
no.
How has that sort of that falsehood come about?
It came about because when I was doing Game of Thrones, I was, I'd had no media training, and I think we were all piled into a room. I think it was season 5, and we were all piled into this press room, and I think I was asked about what kind of work I'd done before, and I'd spent some time in Australia. And I'd been touring there as an actor, and I took some time out to set up a company, a theater company there, a dance theater company. I trained as a dancer when I was out there. I mean, I started off as a classical actor here, and I went to Australia and just thought, I want to discover the other arts, and I started dancing and formed a dance theater company, and it was avant-garde. It was kind of in your face, and sometimes in the shows, my clothes would just come off.
Oh, just accidentally?
There was like 3 of us, and I was the one who would always end up naked, spouting some kind of sonnet or Shakespeare. And
everyone was enraptured, I'm sure.
I can imagine.
And then I think that spiraled into he used to be a stripper, blah, blah, blah. And,
That must be a strange experience to have people say things about your past that just aren't true.
I kind of think, one sees so many things in the press about friends of mine who are actors who it's completely not true. So I think that's part of the course in a way. I mean, I think that's kind of what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But come on. I mean, what's his name? Channing Tatum was a stripper, so I'm sure I'm not in bad company.
Yeah. That's true. I think you've got more physical power than him, though. He's pretty impressive. I did see Magic Mike.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet, but I hear it's great.
Yeah, worth checking out. So you mentioned too that you have a background in theater.
Yeah.
Now, you wrote a play at one point, right?
I wrote a play, yeah, for a theater in London called The Royal Court. I did.
Okay. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what that's about?
Sure. I wrote a play. The play is called Crazyblackmuthafuckin'self.
That is a great title, by the way.
Thank you.
All one word, right?
Yeah, all one word. Crazyblackmuthafuckin'self. It was a play about identity. And it had 8 characters. I would describe it as a dramedy, drama comedy. And it was about every character. It was about their journey to discover themselves. And it was set around a Ghetto Fabulous production. It was a group of actors getting together a Ghetto Fabulous production of Othello called Yo Thello. And it was set on a housing estate. But you guys are American, so I would say it was set in the middle of the projects.
Okay.
And it went down really well. It was a hit. And I need to write another play.
That'd be cool. We're very intrigued by Crazyblackmuthafuckin'self, and we would any chance of maybe one day a film version of it?
Yeah. I mean, I took it to New York, and I got some great feedback then. I'd love to do a production of it in New York, but a film of it, that would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
I imagine you'd have to work it.
I definitely want to write a screenplay. I mean, I saw Nocturnal Animals last week, Tom Ford's, and I love that movie because it's not similar to Crazyblackmuthafuckin'self, but what I was doing with my play was really writing about relationships and just the complexity of relationships. And that film is about relationships and art. And it was just so inspiring.
So you were interested kind of in the relationship, between relationships and search for identity, how they intersect?
I think I'm interested in, the big themes, relationships, identity, especially now with the world as it is now, in terms of you have Brexit in the UK, and you have, if you like, America's Brexit, Trump in the US, and all coming from a sense of kind of identity. People feel like they're not being heard in, if you like, America, middle America. Here in England, you have a sense of people feeling that their identity is being encroached upon by immigration from Eastern Europe. And so I just think it's a right time for me to get my pen out and start writing again. But yeah, those themes I often find the big themes that attract me.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And you certainly resonate much of the sentiment here in the United States, where there is this sort of palpable question of like, who are we? What's going on? Just because, especially this past year, has really made us, at least hopefully, made us look inward in some degree.
Yeah, and people who just haven't felt they've been part of the table, that had been overlooked. I'm really not into that whole all Trump voters are racist BS. I think that's BS, and I think it's the wrong way to go.
Right.
Just as, missing the point of what Brexit means here in the UK is the wrong way to go.
How have you seen people missing the point of it there?
Here or there?
There, where you are.
Well, here, I think in terms of, London is not the United Kingdom. It's not England. Just the same as Los Angeles, where I also live and work, isn't the United States, just as New York isn't. And I think it's been very easy when one is living in those big metropolises to actually forget that there is a bigger world beyond these cities where people do exist, and they don't live in that same, if you like, intellectual bubble. And I think Trump woke people up to that in the US, and Brexit woke people up to that, in London and the UK. And I think it's a good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not all for the support of for me people like Nicholas Farage and the alt-right. However, I do think that it's a wake up call, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Did we all go political? Yeah.
Please tell us about Umbutu. We're kidding. I like that though, because I think that for me kind of makes me think about actors, and like you previously mentioned, sort of this broad breadth of what an actor ought to bring to a role. And what you described basically is just this way of looking at the world that I think would allow for an actor to kind of bring a deeply human character to the screen or to the theater. Because ultimately, at least I think in our view, we love it when we see a movie show us something about humanity. And I think having a broad understanding of it is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I think that as an actor, I have to have that in my toolkit. Otherwise, what am I going to go on screen with but a caricature? So I think a part of that, people say actors who just act and entertain, but I really don't see it as entertaining. For me, it gets to a certain place where I do see it like poetry. I do see like, the great poets are those who have their ears to their society and what's going on and what's happening, and finding a way as an actor to synthesize that into character, or as a writer to synthesize that into a screenplay, is a great responsibility and, a great privilege. And to do that in, whatever genre one is working in, whether it be a disaster movie, sci-fi, whether it be a play in a black box theater in New York, it really doesn't matter. One always wants to bring authenticity, truth, and shine a light on something that is the word isn't needed, but is something quite that cauterizes and touches people. One always wants to go for that.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument that's kind of what all art is trying to do in a lot of ways.
I agree. Yeah, I agree, and I really felt that and feel that working with Roland, who I loved working with, Roland Emmerich. He really does search for that. I love the things that he, for me, Roland he's broken so many rules, by casting Will Smith, as the first black lead in a kind of in a huge Hollywood studio movie / blockbuster that hadn't been done before. And I know that there was I think the studios at the time, weren't favorable. But now, look at what he's done. Also in Independence Day, it's not spoken, but he had I think Oaken, there's a gay relationship there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That happens. And it's not telegraphed, it just is.
Right.
And and I just think that someone like Roland, he breaks those boundaries, and I think that's great. It's exciting.
I think in an interview I heard you refer to him as a master painter.
Yeah, I think he is. And that's what he very much knows what he wants. And you feel like you're kind of at his great easel, and he has this wonderful, incredible vision that, he communicates to a point, because I think that's what I like. There's a real freedom to find, as an actor, I really felt a freedom to find my own self in his painting. We had one really lovely scene where just before Jeff comes with the ship in Dikembe's compound, I'm looking at the painting of my brother, and I'm about to kiss it before I set off, with Jeff and Liam Hemsworth, off into space to find the aliens. And, he just let me find that moment, and I remember his direction was like, when I was looking at the painting, he would just be saying out to me, your brother is dead. You are in Oxford. How do you feel about that? And he would just the way he would direct me. It was just, I just loved that. I just thought, wow, this is a director I love working with.
I think something, when I think of Roland Emmerich, I think of a couple interviews I've seen with him, and he seems to be, like yourself, a very happy and kind individual as well, which, I think we certainly enjoy about you, in that we have Umbutu, who, as we've mentioned, is this African warlord, and the man behind Umbutu, yourself, brings such this light and joy. And likewise, it seems like Roland Emmerich is similar. His movies, often something is being destroyed, but the man himself seems very compassionate and kind-hearted, and what you just said seems to confirm that.
Yeah, he is. I think we're also very similar, is that we're both provocateurs. I'm definitely a provocateur, and I think and a provocateur doesn't mean that it has to be in your face, and it can be something as subtle and as quiet as, playing an African warlord with great humanity. I like things that turn, that aren't what you expect them to be, that either go against the grain or they may look like the stereotype, smell and act like the stereotype, and then bang, there's a scene where you kind of have to question, oh my God, that's not a stereotype. I really like that. And I think Roland does that. He did that with Anonymous, where, the film about Shakespeare and questioning whether Shakespeare wrote his plays, and that really provoked the establishment here in the UK. I think great artists, I think they're also provocateurs in some way, because they change the game, but changing the game, initially creates a little bit of a stir.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you can trace the history of any artistic medium, and the people who are the most influential tend to be the provocateurs, who are often not accepted at their time, or, people don't get it, so they banish it away. But then 20 years down the road, they're like, oh my gosh, look what these people did. They changed everything. Now we can do this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What a wonderful.
You got to spice it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
it's a gift. I think also to give the audience that it's not just recycled stuff, but it's stuff with new meaning. Like we've mentioned in one of our previous episodes, how these colonial themes that you mentioned as well exist in Independence Day Resurgence. And who would have thought that a summer blockbuster could infuse a deep theme like that?
How do you mean? What the colonial themes that?
Well, you mentioned with Floyd and Umbutu, but sort of this sense of these African people who had to fight the ground battle and really didn't
exactly,
have
and if ever if there's another movie, I would always say to Roland, I'd want Roland to challenge that further, just because I think it's really great when one challenges the status quo, and Africa has always been the ground of suffering and pain for Hollywood. And for someone who, I was born in London, but my parents are from Africa and I've been to Africa a lot. Africa isn't that place at all. It really isn't. It's a thriving, bustling metropolis of, great technology, art, fashion. And I think, when more of that gets to the screen, it's going to be very exciting. Very exciting.
Well, I do think we are coming around to our 30-minute mark here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Boys, I've been enjoying this.
Yeah.
I mean, we can extend it if you'd like.
I'll go another 10 minutes.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
I wonder if, speaking of this being provocateur, if you have any projects in the works that you would be willing to share that might be kind of following through with this in new ways for you?
Well, I'm in a wonderful show for Netflix that comes out in February called Santa Clarita Diet. That's with Drew Barrymore, and
cool.
It's a vampire comedy, and it's fantastic. It's with Tim Oliphant and Drew Barrymore. And I play Loki, who is this kind of, thug who wants to mug. And the story is that when you become, when you get bitten by Drew is this kind of, probably shouldn't be giving the story away actually, but Drew is
just
this
give a
kind
teaser.
of vampire, and when she bites you, you become a zombie, but you become the person you've always wanted to be.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Which is
a really good
wow.
idea.
What a great twist on a classic story. Don't worry, we don't have any listeners anyway.
So the character I play, he goes from this kind of stereotypical kind of thug to this kind of romantic, poetic folk singer. And it's just a really nice kind of turn of the stereotype, and and he falls in love with Drew, and
nice.
I just really like doing it because it just played with stereotypes really, really well. And I'm also in something called Emerald City for NBC, which starts in January, and that's like a modern retelling of The Wizard of Oz, and that's been directed by Tarsem Singh, and that's really, really good. So there are some great things coming out that I'm in.
Excellent. Well,
that's exciting.
Yeah, you just made my winter very exciting because I'm very excited for these.
And you've alluded to screenwriting ambitions?
I do. I don't have anything to report right now, but I'm looking for that to change in this new 2017.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think that you could play a role in writing the new Independence Day?
You'll have to interview Roland and talk to him.
Okay.
We'll tweet at him a lot, I guess.
Yeah, you're tweeting at him, right?
Yeah, we tweeted him.
Yeah, he was extremely kind to us when he found out we were going to be interviewing you. He contacted us and sent us a signed copy of Independence Day Resurgence, which was
that's great.
Yeah.
And did you get your Umbutu wine?
No,
not yet. We need to get on those wine people to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'll send an email to Roland's head of staff and find out where your wine is.
Oh,
they promised to send you some Umbutu wine. There's actually Dikembe Umbutu wine.
Wow,
we saw that picture you posted, which was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is really cool.
Wow, that's amazing to know that's being said.
Absolutely. And I just had dinner with Roland a couple of days ago here in London. He's in London, so
awesome.
So do send this to him.
Oh,
we will.
And
yeah,
please, if you see him again soon, feel free to give him our best and maybe even give him a hug on behalf of us each, and also give yourself a hug on behalf of us each.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll see him in LA in January.
Cool.
And you guys are coming to LA.
That's the plan. Yeah, that is the plan. Yeah. We've got our Southwest points all ready to go, so we could book a flight as early as tomorrow if need be.
Cool.
We'd be happy to buy lunch for you and Roland and anyone else you want to bring along. Just to shoot the breeze and drop some ideas.
You got me on the program. Now it's time for you to get Roland.
Yeah. Hey, if you
can logical step.
Plant a bug in his ear, and if he's willing, we would love that.
I will.
Well, if we were doing a video podcast right now, I would ask you to send us off with a quick flex, but we can just imagine what that would look like.
Imagine
instead.
me flexing, yeah.
I'm sure it's remarkable.
Maybe your clothes would even accidentally fall off. Just like in Australia.
No, I keep my clothes on now. However, I remember doing Game of Thrones. I remember saying, look, I would go naked for the right scene.
Dang those producers for not taking you up on that offer.
Exactly, right?
You seem like a man who is not willing to put limits on himself.
I think, I'm all for more male nudity. We have it with the women, and I think that it needs to be an equal playing field.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point too.
Yeah. Often with males, it's just used for comedy these days.
Mm-hmm. As what?
As comedy.
Exactly. Should be serious.
Yeah. Well, we support you in your crusade to bring that back.
My nude crusade.
We can make that a hashtag on Twitter if you'd like. Join DeObia and his hashtag nude crusade.
I don't know. The Daily Mail might take up on it. Suddenly, I might have more stripper.
Yeah.
That's right. Stripper ID.
Yeah, just spreading more lies about your background. Well, it seems the right way to say goodbye is to end on this joyful note.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys, and it was fun to chat with you.
Thank you very much. We just really appreciate the time you took, as well as your willingness to basically be interviewed by two random people who have no credentials and just tweeted at you a bunch. It's very kind
of
you.
This is growing, right? I hear your audience is growing.
It seems to be.
It is.
So we appreciate your willingness to accelerate that growth.
Yeah, we really do.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Well, more than a pleasure on our end,
Absolutely.
DeObia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and have a good Christmas. What are you planning? You're there now in Pittsburgh, right?
St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
St. Louis.
I did live in Pittsburgh.
When I Skyped you, it said Pittsburgh.
Okay, that's where I used to live. I was going to think that you just have that intuitive sense, and you were able to sense that I once lived there.
You had a warlord vision, and
a warlord vision. I like
it. Yeah, just family time on my side.
Same here. Visit our families and spend a little time off from work. So
yeah. enjoy a break.
Oh, this isn't your bread and butter. I imagine you guys doing this all the time.
That'll be maybe a couple years down the road when we can make it into something sustainable. Right now we have to get income elsewhere.
You're a good double act.
That's right. Yeah.
Just trying to create the dream.
Great. Okay, well, look, have a great time. Nice to speak to you.
You too.
Have a great Christmas.
Much. And I look forward to hearing this when you send it.
Oh, wonderful.
Absolutely. We'll send it soon.
Okay.
All the best.
All the best.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.